Today, one of my best friends, a guy I've worked with for well over 20 years, Brian Lovett. Brian, welcome back to Deer Talk Now.
Thanks, Dan. Great to be back. It's been a while.
So, when we originally started doing this show, it was a show then. That was before they even called it a podcast. Brian was a co-host for years and years. Brad was on there, and Brad would be staring like aimlessly at the floor. Oh yeah, I agree totally. And he'd like look up every now and then to say something. If you remember, if you can go back to the archives, Brian was there through it all. Brian, what's going on?
Well, like everyone else around here, we're just kind of waiting for spring, kind of hoping turkey season hurries up and gets here, trying to avoid being washed away in all this rain. Um, but it's coming. I was out and about last weekend and saw a bunch of turkeys around down in southwestern Wisconsin, bunch of strutters. I'm just wondering how they're all going to disappear and go quiet before the season starts here in a few weeks. Yeah.
That was my
Yeah.
imitation of a turkey strutting. You actually hunted already though in some other states, right?
Yep. Yeah, I was down in Mississippi for their
Oh,
first
that's right.
weekend, and I'd actually never hunted Mississippi before.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, but I've hunted, like you hunted Alabama a bunch, and back in the day when we do the mossy hunts, we'd fly into Mississippi and then drive over to Alabama a lot of times and hunt over there. But this was actually in northern Mississippi, and man, bird numbers were really good. It was excellent. There were a lot of turkeys around, and it was pretty cold, for the south that time of year. Like both mornings were in the 20s that we hunted, and then it got pretty windy. But man, one day we had a lot of, I don't know how many encounters, came close how many times, and the next day we kind of, our roost hunt kind of blew up, so we went to another pretty little spot and just set up, and gobbler came in quietly after about 15 minutes and ended up killing it. So it was
Kapow.
great hunting.
So if you guys don't know, if you're too young, half of my producers already walked away. So this is Brian. This is bingo for you. You and I started working together in '94,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
'94 Krause Publications. Brian was with Turkey and Turkey Hunting all those years. 20, how many years? 20.
Yeah, I think I started with Outdoor Journal in 94 and then picked up Turkey the next year when Jerry Blair retired, and then did it for I think 8 years, and then did a couple other titles in the interim. Jim Schlender did Turkey and then went back to Turkey in 2008, I think, and did it till almost till I think till I left in 2014. So
2014. So
yeah.
if you don't know Brian, one of the I'm not just saying this because he's my friend. One of the best turkey hunters in America. He'll never tell you that. Like me being a geek with deer, counting how many deer I've killed over the years, you've killed hundreds of turkeys over the years, and I don't know how many different states. But just to give the little recap, Brian was with Turkey and Turkey Hunting, Wisconsin Outdoor Journal, Bass Pro Outdoor World. He did Krause Outdoor Books, Gun Digest, uh, Real Tree Deer Hunting, Real Tree Bucks, Bulls, and Bears, Real Tree Turkey Hunting. Still works
Yeah.
with Real Tree. The Matthews magazine. I could go on and on and on. Original co-host of this show. Um, I know that you've hunted turkeys everywhere, Brian, but do you have that recalled to memory, like how many different states?
Yeah, I've actually hunted them in 22 states and Mexico, killed birds in 18 states and
Damn.
Mexico. So the I did not get a bird in Virginia, West Virginia, New York, or South Carolina. So, but yeah, so I've been able to, been great, been able to see a lot of places I probably would never have been able to see without being involved in turkey hunting.
So
So,
Brad Rux and I were talking about that this morning. One of the stories he wanted me to share. Susie Mellum says hi, by the way, too. She actually gave me some ammo. I was saying, give me some ammo on Brian that we can talk about on air. That's PG. But Brad remembers. I'm going to let you tell the story. Apple Cheek Dan O, Apple Cheek Beavis. That's what we called Brian.
yep.
This would have been, I don't know, 1995. Was it the when you went?
Oh yeah.
You went to Alabama. Was it Alabama? And I went to Alabama. We both got
Yep.
invited on industry hunts.
Yep. 96. Yep. Never forget. Yeah.
So tell the story. I won't tell it.
So it was like a tale of two hunts. I mean, I'm doing turkey and there were two invites at the time. One was to White Oak Plantation, which, back in the day was like the destination for Southern turkey hunting. I don't know how many writers went through there, how many media events were held there, how many people got their first turkey there, and it was just not only that, great people, fantastic accommodations. I mean, just a first class trip all the way. And the other was with Eddie Salter. And Eddie, of course, was champion turkey caller, still had his own brand of calls at that time. And so our boss at the time, Debbie, she said, "Well, I think I'd like you to go with Eddie and on that trip, and then you, Dan, or someone else can go to White Oak." I'm like, "Okay, that sounds good." So uh, you went to White Oak, I went with Eddie, and it poured rain the whole time. I think the second day I messed around and missed a turkey, and just ended up being kind of a trip over your own feet, kind of, had kind of sketchy accommodations, I
Oh, come
guess.
on. Sketchy accommodations was basically a rundown trailer filled with mud wasps.
Filled with mud wasps, yeah, and it had leaked, so I didn't realize like there was actually like wet carpet in there on one side of the bed and mud wasps everywhere. I think one day we got our rental car stuck and ran out of food. I mean, we literally like eating white bread and bacon sandwiches for supper, and meanwhile, across the state, here's Dan, never turkey hunted before, goes to White Oak, and he was like, leaning back, enjoying a mint julep, and eating fried quail wings
A
and stuff.
35-year-old Tess Jolly is one of my guides.
Yeah, yeah. and and of course, goes out. I think it was pouring rain that day. Were you hunting with Brian Ross
Brian
when you?
Ross,
Yeah.
and I'll finish it from there. Brian Ross, so I had no freaking idea what I was doing. And I had one of these, that's back when we wore watches, and I had like one of those Casio watches, and it would beep on the hour. It'd go dee dee on the hour. And he looked at me, he goes, "Son, we're going to mess up a turkey if you keep that." And I took the watch off and I shoved it in my pack. And we went and we we hid underneath a big tower blind,
That's right. Yeah.
and I fell asleep, and he nudges me, and here comes some turkeys. I didn't know anything, so he goes, the first one's a gobbler, so I shoot it and I run out there. We run out there, and I look down on it, and Brian just kind of looks at me, and he goes, "This thing's got 5 beards," and I'm like, "Oh, is that good or something?" It was a 5 bearded gobbler with like 1.25 inch spurs.
Yeah. Yeah, like 47 inches of total beard length,
You
wasn't it, or
actually
something like
remember it,
that?
yes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just a gorilla, once in a lifetime turkey, Yeah, it was just, and of course we get back, and I think I heard about it. I called in the office and heard about it, So of course I'm like, just like, oh, I can't believe it.
That was one of my favorite memories because it needled you. And then the other
Yeah.
one was when I shot that fall turkey. I think it was in '98.
Oh yeah.
Which was, were you born in '98? You were born in '99. Mac was born in '98. So
Okay.
Mac, our other TV producer, Ian was not even a twinkle yet. That fall, I went out and shot these turkeys kept coming out and eating grasshoppers in this field where I was hunting just west of Wapaka. And I said, I got a turkey take. So I went back the next day with my shotgun. I shoot this turkey. It's got like 1 7/8 spurs. And I just cut the legs off. And I come in work the next day and I throw them on my desk. And our boss at the time is like, huh, huh. And he doesn't even look at it. And Brian's like, what the hell? You know? I'm like,
Oh
I
my
don't know. Is that
God.
going?
Are those fake? Like, oh my Lord.
Brian's
Yeah.
just looking at him he was Gollum and I brought him the ring. It was like,
Got them. Got them. Yeah.
oh crap. So
My prep.
I do remember the Alabama. It was just like it was one thing after another. One thing Brad also asked me to ask you was, weren't you or somebody like stung by a scorpion or something on a hunt?
Oh, squirrel. I
Or
don't
you like got
remember
in a
that.
bed? Or was that not, is
I
that
got
bad memory?
stung by a mud wasp in the trailer that time. I got well, Brad and I'll never forget at the NWTF convention the one year we walked out of our hotel room and right away a bird pooped on my head. Must have saw that big bald target up there and just 10 ringed me right on the top of my head. Um, and then once in Oklahoma a few years ago, I got actually jumped by a bobcat turkey hunting.
I don't think I remember that one.
Yeah, that's maybe I didn't tell you that one, but that's I was at in Western Oklahoma, and it was an afternoon. I was kind of trying to circle around on these turkeys. Long story, and they're kind of set up and was just kind of waiting for them to make their move to where they might go to roost that evening. And just sitting there kind of yelping, looking around. And I remember I called once, set my call down. I kind of turned my head a little bit. And then immediately it felt like someone grabbed the back of my head and was just shoving my head down into my chest as hard as it could. And at first I'm like, okay, this is someone in camp playing a bad joke on me or what's going on, And after about two or three times like that, I must have reared my head back up like that just in time to look and see the bobcat just tearing out of there.
Holy
So this
cow.
bobcat must have got up in the tree and literally jumped on top of my head when I yelped and thought I was a turkey. And so immediately I thought my head's just going to be cut to ribbons. But all I had was literally I had a bunch of bobcat fur on my hat and one tiny scratch was it.
Holy
But I'm
cow. I've
just
never heard that story. Oh my
yeah, yeah.
gosh.
Yeah. So of course, I'm all paranoid. It's like, oh man, I'm gonna have to get rabies shots and all this stuff. But they said, it didn't bite me, so I didn't have to get rabies shots. But I was done hunting for that day. I'm like, nope, that's enough. I'm not pushing my luck anymore. What's next? A mountain lion? I'm going back to the lodge.
Wow. And that's one thing about Brian is this guy, I don't know how you do it, but so we have 6 periods here in Wisconsin. And if you play your cards right, which Brian has done, you get tags for just about every period, or you can buy multiple tags for like the later seasons. And for 25, 30 plus years, how have you, and not only that, you've gone to other states and hunted, you've driven to Missouri and Iowa and all over the place. How do you possibly muster that energy to wake up every single day and go turkey hunting for 2 months?
I don't know. It used to be a lot easier. I'll tell you that. I mean, it was when you're 35, you didn't think about it. You just got up and did it. And you'd hunt before work, till 8 o'clock, whatever, going to work and work all day and then drive home. It's like, oh, it's okay. It's just I'm tired, and nowadays it's like, oh my God. But I don't know. It just, you figure you have a few weeks to do it. You just try to make the most of it. Obviously go to bed early, take a cat nap here and there when you can. But, I just, it'd be smart just to take some days off. But when you take a day off, you just feel like, man, I should be out there. What am I missing out on? I mean, you know how the feeling, it just almost becomes obsessive that you have to get out there. I mean, even if you don't come close to working a turkey that day, it's just good to get out there and kind of participate in it to me. So
You were lucky, as was I. I'm not to the extent that you were. I did get to experience some of it, but I attribute all my turkey hunting knowledge today to those guys that we were so fortunate to work with. Eddie Salter, Don Schmidt, Chris Parrish. I mean, you talk about a who's who of people in the turkey hunting. I hate calling it is the industry, call makers, whatever. What are I know that's what got both of us on that fast start to learn how to hunt turkeys. But what are some of the takeaways that even today that like if you're teaching? I know you have nephews and younger people that you mentor. What are some of the things that you say? I wish somebody would have taught me this when I first started.
well, so much of it you can, reading a book, reading a magazine, see on videos. So much of it you have to experience by being out there. And I guess, like you said, we were very lucky. I mean, I got to hunt with people who were far better turkey hunter than I was, especially at the time. And just to be able to watch them in the woods and see what they did, I think you pick, they'd tell you stuff, but you'd pick up on so much too. I mean, just I remember watching, Mark Drury or Steve Stoltz run a call and just try to emulate that when I would run a call. I mean, seeing how they moved through the woods, how they listened, where they set up. I mean, Ship was great. He was the guy. I remember he'd sit there and just kind of move through the woods and call. And he called a lot, but then he'd kind of pick a spot and he'd say, we need to be right here, and set up. And he just had this uncanny knack for setting up in the right spot where when the turkey came in, it was just in perfect range right there, and just picking up stuff like that. So, I mean, nowadays when you take someone, you try to tell them a bunch of stuff before the hunt, and they get it, but until you get out in the woods with them, you'll maybe notice what they're doing and try to, tell them how to sit on the tree, for example. If you're sitting here and you think a bird's coming this way, you don't want to sit facing directly toward it. You want to be able to cover your bases, so kind of more off your left shoulder if you're right-handed. That way you can swing your gun this way and that way, because if that turkey comes to the right and you're like this, you're in big trouble because you have to move your gun all the way to the right, which doesn't always work out very well. I mean, just little stuff like that you've picked up through the years, if you can try to impart to them, and maybe it's just one little nugget per hunt or something like that. I mean, it's how to run a call, or how to control your volume calling, or how to, just slip up to a terrain rise and kind of glass before you expose yourself and walk on top of a ridge or get out in the open. Just little stuff like that, that you can, all the stuff you picked up through osmosis almost over the years. If you can teach that to them, I think those lessons are the biggest ones.
I agree with you 100% there. The other thing, I think I'll attribute it to Jim Cassida because he wrote about it a lot, but he always said you got to be working on the turkey's time and not your time. Basically, have to be patient. And you know me, I have zero patience for anything. But that's one thing that in the turkey woods, I will be patient and wait for that turkey to circle around silently, or maybe come in on his own time.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's a great lesson. Yeah, Dr. Jim wrote about that. John Trout wrote about that a lot. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
turkeys have the only thing a turkey knows about time is, it's time to fly down, time to fly up, or maybe it's getting hot out. I mean, that's his only concept of time. He's in no hurry to do anything, and he'll do it on his own terms. And I think it's like when you go and set up, you're like, okay, I'm going to sit here for an hour and call, and you call for 20 minutes, like, all right, nothing's answering. I'm really bored. I'm starting to fidget. There's got to be something better going on somewhere else. I mean, a lot of times you'd probably be better off just sitting there and yelping for a little bit and kind of listen and see if you see what happens. But, I'm the same way. I try to force myself to be patient, and doesn't always work out. I mean, sometimes you have to be impatient, like the turkey gets hung up and you need to move, or you hear a bird gobble somewhere else and you have to decide whether to move or stay there. Sometimes it pays to be impatient, but generally speaking, yeah, patience is going to kill more turkeys than impatience.
What are your thoughts, Brian, on technology? Because it has come such a long way. When we first started hunting, we were using, I mean, no offense to those guys, those feather flex decoys. We thought they were awesome. But basically, it was like a piece of plastic that kind of puffed up a little bit. Now
Yeah.
you've got turkey decoys that are light, and I mean, they look like a real turkey.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Maybe morph that conversation into shotguns, loads, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, when you think about it, right? I mean, when we started, really, it was just kind of the beginning of the turkey shot shell revolution. So I think we were on the kind of the first wave of like the Winchester Black Beauties, when they came out, and 6 shot and 5 shot, and it was a great cartridge, still is. Um, but yeah, feather flex decoys. I mean, think about it. There weren't any pop up blinds then or anything. So basically, we were doing, turkey hunting in the traditional sense. You're back against a tree using a decoy, but looking back, a fairly primitive decoy, and you're limiting your shots to, I mean, 50 yards was probably the max you were going to shoot, and even then, sometimes it could be a stretch depending on your load and your choke. Fast forward now, we have these ultra realistic decoys, um, these pop up lines that really make you invisible. They allow you to set up pretty much anywhere you want, move around, um, and the guns and loads are incredible. I mean, TSS has just made us so much more effective
Tungsten is what
shooting
he's talking
turkeys.
about there, right?
Yeah,
Tungsten shot is what you're talking about, right?
yeah, tungsten super shot. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's ultra dense, basically almost twice as dense as lead, and therefore you can use much smaller pellets. So you boost your pattern count, almost double your pattern count while maintaining your downrange energy. So all these have made us so much more effective. And a lot of people take advantage of that. That's great. I still really enjoy kind of the old fashioned way of doing it, which is kind of being in the timber, no blind, no decoys, and going out. I really, and nothing against blinds at all, but if a perfect turkey season to me is I'll put my blind in the back of my truck, and at the end of the season I'll take it out without having used it.
That's
Usually if
pretty
I'm
good.
hunting, yeah, if I'm hunting from a blind, it's pouring rain out. And decoys too. I mean, sometimes you pretty much have to use decoys if you're in a big pasture situation or something like that. I mean, unless you really have the terrain to your advantage, you almost have to have a visual reassurance there for your calling. But in the timber, I'll just go me, my vest, and a call and hunt like that, and try to use the timber and the terrain to put things in your favor. But yeah, I mean, overall, yeah, it's just technology and innovation has made us much more efficient overall as turkey hunters.
Okay, so what about the thing that I've been seeing a lot on Instagram? We're trying to get this guy on the podcast, by the way. We don't know his name. He's kind of the sock puppet of the outdoor industry. He calls himself Copper Plated Sixes on Instagram. The guy's ruthless. And I feel sorry for whoever's picture this is because he keeps posting it once a week until further notice
Yeah,
of some guy that got the turkey fan on his head. They call it
yeah,
reaping or whatever.
yeah, yeah.
What about that tactic? What are your thoughts on reaping for turkeys?
Well, that's a hot button tactic for sure. And
Don't hold back now, Brian.
yeah, yeah, it's so it's actually been around in one form or another for longer than we realize. I think Dwayne Bland years and years ago was doing it out west. And basically it's just taking a fake or a real fan and giving a turkey that visual. And when a gobbler's fired up and it sees another gobbler like that fan out, I mean, that fan is like a touchstone to those turkeys. I mean, every turkeys recognize it as another gobbler. And a lot of times it can spark a really aggressive reaction and make a turkey run in to kind of kick butt on this intruding turkey. So it got really popular. I'm guessing, I want to say maybe 10 years ago or so. I think it was some guys out of Iowa who's really started, had YouTube videos, of course,
They
and
listen to
everyone started
Slipknot
doing
or
it. Yeah,
sorry,
I think they did.
rocking
and
out with
and
Baby Doll. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and now it's really a very popular tactic, especially in wide open places. But it's gathered a lot of criticism too, because I mean, of course, if you're hiding behind a real turkey fan, I mean, there's a big element of danger in that, especially if you're anywhere near other hunters, or on public land. And also, some people really don't like it. They think it's an unfair advantage. I mean, you're really not doing anything except getting where a turkey can see you and showing him the fan, and then if it works, trying to get ready to shoot the turkey. So um, I don't do it. I've done it. I've done it out west a couple of times with friends out there in South Dakota, and that was kind of my first exposure to it. And it really works. There's no question. In the right situation, it works.
Deer Talk Now is brought to you by GameHide. At GameHide, the philosophy is pretty simple. Design the best products with the best fabrics and features to help you be more successful in the field. While doing this, they strive to keep their pricing moderate to give you the best value in the hunting clothing industry. I wear the Limitic line of clothing to keep those nasty ticks off of me, and I absolutely love it. Check them out at gamehide.com. Is there anything for you, turkey hunting wise, that you deem unethical?
Well, I guess that depends on your own personal standard of ethics. Like with reaping. I don't do it just because I don't like to do it. I mean, I would rather kind of turkey hunt how you and I learned to turkey hunt, which calling, woodsmanship, and all these skills you kind of worked through so many years to acquire. I mean, done that way, turkey hunting requires a lot of different skill sets. And that's what's enjoyable about it to me. Plus the calling, I really enjoy. So I really don't participate in fanning. If someone wants to, that's up to them. I'm just because I don't do it doesn't mean they can't do it. I figure as long as you're legal and safe and it meets your own personal code of ethics, have at it. I'm not going to tell you how to hunt, and just like you don't tell me how to hunt. I mean,
Well, I'll
so
tell you how to hunt.
how to,
Well, I'll tell you how to hunt, Junior.
yeah.
You're
So
gonna
I mean,
find I'm gonna interrupt Brian a lot. We've
yeah,
got a little bit to go. I keep interrupting him, but I know that's your take. Your take is basically if it's legal and you want to do it, have at it. Basically, is what
yeah,
is
yeah.
what
It is.
view.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't really enjoy that myself, so I just don't do it. But if someone else wants to do it, go
Some
for
other
it.
tool bag wants to, go right ahead.
That's right. Yeah.
Have a, well, hope you're happy with it.
Yeah. If you're happy with that, that's fine for
So
you.
it's okay for you.
Yeah.
Not my cup of tea. No, that's that is that's my views on it too. That we're peas in a pod that way. to me, if it's legal, knock yourself out.
Mm-hmm.
Hunting out of a blind, hunting hunting with decoys. Is it still illegal in Alabama to hunt over decoys?
Well, no, they made it legal and now they've cut it back the last couple of years, I believe. And I'm going to get this wrong, but I think it's you can't use decoys. It's like the first week or two of the season now, something like that.
In
They moved their
Alabama.
season date back, like a lot of states are doing now, and made decoys, prohibited decoys for, don't quote me on this, but a week or two, I think, the early part of the season, I believe. So,
Um, we could talk about turkeys the whole program. We won't. But the other thing, well, is baiting legal anywhere for turkeys?
Texas, I think it's still legal in Kansas. Trying to think where else. There are some other states that have, uh, I think like Florida, I think you have to be a certain distance from a feeder, and I forget whether it's 75 or 100 yards. Oklahoma, I think, might be the same, or at least it was. They've kind of tweaked their regulations too. So, yeah, but Texas and Kansas are the two states that jump to my mind as far
Are
as
the big ones.
baby turkeys. Yeah.
And then what about like well, we know about our views on this. Jakes are basically legal game no matter where you hunt, right?
Uh, yeah, Mississippi has a no jakes rule. It's got your bird has to have a beard of a certain length, and they're basically doing that to try to protect jakes. Yeah. Hmm.
So where I'm going with all of this is we have modern guns, modern blinds. You can bait some places. You basically can kill jakes. Are is the turkey population in peril? Are we have we come to a point where we've become so efficient at it that we're seeing declines across the country?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. You're seeing declines in some parts of the country, notably the southeast and the east, I guess. And of course, us being the barstool biologists we are, everyone has a culprit in mind. That some people have blamed, reaping or TSS or what have you. I
The
mean,
DNR dropping baby rattlesnakes from the airplanes.
you can't
Well,
ignore
they
that.
do it. I see it.
I've
They
seen
do
them do
it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, oh,
That's
sorry. Go ahead.
right after they took all those walleyes from up north and shipped them down to Illinois, right? So,
To Chicago. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, sold them in pickle barrels down there. So
I saw it. They
I saw it with my own
pickled
eye.
walleyes. It was 5 for a buck. sorry,
So,
sorry. Go ahead.
so these state, and
That's our rock farmer voice, by the way. We patented that.
oh yes, we've worked on that for many years.
I'm sorry, Brian. Go ahead.
So a lot of the southeastern states now, I mean, the number one thing you can point to with turkeys is, of course, production. If you're not making baby turkeys, because turkeys get eaten by everything, they die of natural causes. You have to replace, generationally, keep replacing turkeys to keep that population at a good level. And nesting turkeys face a ton of challenges. Everything's trying to eat their nest, everything's trying to eat the hen on the nest. And unless you're averaging about, I think, 2.5 poults per hen is about the benchmark to maintaining a steady turkey population. And a lot of states aren't doing that anymore. Missouri has some great long-term data. Missouri, I mean, the pinnacle of eastern turkey hunting for so many years, but for I think it's maybe 20 years now, their poult production has averaged about 2 poults per hen. So they've been slowly having declining production that's had a long-term effect on their turkey populations. And that, you could have a bad spring with bad weather, big rainstorms, whatnot, cold spring that hurts nesting success. A lot of it boils down to habitat. I mean, we still have a lot of turkey habitat, but a lot of it is much more fragmented nowadays. So I mean, that anyone will tell you that kind of gives predators an advantage if they have just blocks of habitat where a hen turkey has to nest instead of vast swaths of habitat where a hen turkey has to nest. So predators kind of have an advantage. Predator populations are, turkeys have always had predators, but now populations are booming, and with that advantage and the habitat being fragmented, I think they having a big effect. And new research has kind of suggested that maybe a lot of turkey seasons have opened a little bit too early, and speculating that hunters are maybe killing a lot of the, dominant birds that would do a lot of the breeding with hens early in the season, and then leaving, subordinate or supposedly less fit males to take on the rest of the breeding, which might affect the long-term success. So a lot of these states have moved dates back to try to let turkeys, ideally those, dominant breeding males do their thing with the hens, just to kind of ensure that enough breeding will take place. Um, you know, and I think it remains to be seen whether that has had an effect or not. We won't know for a few years. Just talking with people in the South this year, some states saw some good success, reproductive success last year. Some states are just kind of, holding the line and not really, their turkeys aren't doing well. You know, and one thing we need to look at too, I mean, you and I kind of came in on the boom of turkey hunting when a lot of these populations after restorations just, I mean, hit these highs that were so incredible, so great, and they kind of came down from that a little bit, which, as I understand it from biologists, is very typical. The birds kind of reach an artificial high, and then the population kind of comes down and plateaus or stabilizes at the carrying capacity of the land. So I think long term, we probably have to realize that those numbers are probably never going to be what they were in the boom years of the late 90s, early 2000s. They're still very good across the country. They really, even Missouri, I still hunt there every year, and it's not what it was 20 years ago, but it's still very good turkey hunting. There's still a lot of turkeys. It's never going to be what it was in 1998 when you and I were first going down there. But long term, I think they're looking to try to figure out those answers, whether it's, habitat, killing off those dominant males too early, other factors, or a big combination thereof. So, I mean, and we probably won't know for a few years.
That's some great information, Brian. Thank you. The other thing, you were asking me what the hell I was doing being a farmer. I'm trying to remember. That's another inside joke. Is disease? Does disease have anything to do with it?
It could, I suppose, locally. Everyone I've talked to said it can affect local populations. Whether it's blackhead disease, or I forget the name of this most recent disease that they were talking about.
Oh, it had some name that was like this long.
Yeah, yeah,
The Wisconsin DNR had a nice 3-paragraph story on that in their last magazine.
yeah, yeah, and still managed to bury their lead. But anyway, yeah, so I think, yeah, locally they can. I mean, it's if blackhead became prevalent in an area of a national forest, perhaps, or something like that, I could see definitely where it affect the
What about
localized.
like avian flu? Is that affecting them?
I haven't heard anything about that. I
Okay.
I think it's pretty prevalent
That's
when
what
if
they want you. They don't want you to know. It's
that's
good
that's
because they don't want you. No, I'm sorry.
that's why they introduced it, to get rid of the
That's
turkeys.
why.
The deer are next.
The
That's
fishers,
yeah.
rattlesnakes.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, waterfowl, you can see why they get it, because when they're migrating, especially if they're congregated in such tight bunches, it's just much easier for them to pick up a transmissible disease like that. Turkeys, I think, are more naturally spread out. Not that they couldn't get it, but
Do you remember? Okay, so Brian and I, we started off at it was corporate but small, and then we got bought by a bigger. That our outdoors division, deer and deer hunting, turkey and turkey hunting, all that stuff was 5% of the portfolio of this corporation that we were part of, that went defunct, and then Brad and Steve and I and we rescued it out of that. But do you remember when we were in those corporate meetings like in New York, and invariably you'd have some guy or some woman in one of these meetings like, they're trying to fit in. My brother-in-law, I think this is a Jim Schlender story, was in the airport at O'Hare, and he saw a copy of Turkey and Turkey Hunting on their newsstand. Yeah, we're publishers. That's what.
yeah, that's right. This could be a good strategy. If we got more magazines on newsstand, we'd probably sell more magazines. That's
I was on my deck drinking coffee, and there was a turkey out there. I mean, it was like an alien or something that they were talking. Like, yeah, that's what we do. But we
yeah,
were the
yeah.
wood tick rednecks, from Iola who didn't know anything.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was like the greatest, when they'd all come from Ohio or in New York, especially, and they'd come in the back entrance there where the outdoor division used to be. We had all the deer heads and turkey fans up on the wall. They'd come in, you could just hear them like, "Oh my God, keep walking, keep walking, keep walking."
It's the blood sports division. Please don't
It's
don't look at them. Don't make eye contact.
Yeah, shoot, quiet. They make a lot of money though. So
Just leave them alone.
yeah,
Talk about that, Brian. What did we have there? What how was that atmosphere? Working in that atmosphere. If people don't know, we were part of a huge hobby publisher at the time, and
hmm
how was that working environment? For you, and I know how it was for me, but how was those years of your working life?
Well, great. Like you said, it was almost two chapters because the first eight, 9 years, I guess, when it was still an ESOP company, you know, we we felt like it was corporate, but it really wasn't. It was really like a small town atmosphere. Um, you had the guys in the outdoors division would hang out and intermingle with the guys in sports. I mean, they're all numismatics. I mean, it was even if we didn't realize at the time, it was kind of very fraternal atmosphere, almost like a big family. And then we got bought out, which of course was inevitable, and it slowly started to change to becoming more corporate until it got really corporate, the last few years. And it was still good. I mean, when it was just us in the office, just dealing with the day-to-day stuff about making magazines, trying to create content, working on websites, it was still great. It was just the oversight from New York, and I mean, especially and it's not their fault. They just weren't familiar with the outdoor industry really. So they would try to use strategies they'd maybe used in another niche publishing, realm. It's like, well, we should try doing this, or we should. What was the one we tried selling webcasts for like $40 or something like that? Like, I think we tried it once and sold like two of them. Like, yeah, we might need to rethink this. This
40
really isn't
bucks.
working.
Yeah. Well,
They
if
they
we if
tried.
we could sell one a day,
Yeah, right. All you guys need to do is produce one a day. So
and
in
meanwhile
addition to
you're
putting out
driving
all these books
60
and
miles to
magazines.
work,
Yeah.
editing magazine articles.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay, let's
So
switch. Let's switch it to deer, because we have to. It is deer talk now.
that's right.
What people might not realize is you have quite a long list of experience in deer, and you still work in the deer world today.
Yeah. So I was, very lucky because really back in the day, I mean, we all had our own titles, but everyone worked on Deer. It was the flagship magazine, and great experiences. My gosh, we got to meet so many people. Talk with Charlie, Lenny LaRue, and folks like that. All the great contributors throughout the years. It was a great atmosphere around it, and just a great magazine, and remains a great magazine. Um, and just through being in the industry, got to meet folks at Whitetail Institute, and I started kind of helping out, just doing some copy editing and stuff like that about 15 years ago with them. And a couple of years ago, Bart Lansford, who also worked at Krause, retired as the editor of Whitetail News, so I got to take over that. So I still keep my foot in the whitetail industry through Whitetail News. And it's great. I really enjoy it. Back in the day, I was never a food plot guy. It was kind of foreign to me, but now we actually have a little place where we do a few food plots, and it's just, I honestly enjoy that stuff almost as much as I do the hunting anymore. It's just kind of cool to see the entire process through the year and try to just make the little bit of land you have a little bit better for deer and see how deer use it. And it's kind of, I don't know, it gets to be a year-round thing instead of just a 9 day a year, a 2 month out of the year hunting season kind of thing. So
What are you doing for food plots now? What do you plant? What are some of your favorite go tos?
well, our spot is kind of, it's in a valley. So we have one big food plot, which old pasture ground basically. It's about 3 acres, and we still have clover in that. And then we have a ridge and then high ground up top. And last year there's some clearing, but not a lot. It's a lot of thick timber and a lot of invasives, as there is everywhere, autumn olive, stuff like that. But last year we cleared out about 3 spaces and put some no plow up there. And just, the theory being, it's like the neighbor has a lot of land and a lot of ag there. So a lot of the deer, of course, bedding on ours and going to his to feed. So we just tried to set up these little stations where maybe they would pause, for a little bit on their way from bedding to go to his place. And man, it worked great. I mean, deer just bucks included, would stop there, grab a bite to eat before heading out to his big fields. And we well, had camera pictures of big bucks being there in daylight. I never saw a big buck there in daylight, but yeah, I was really encouraged by that. And it took maybe a day of work to do it. I mean, just clear the ground, scatter the seed, pray for rain, and then just watch all the beautiful stuff come up.
That
So
one is an easy one to plant. I've planted. What have you had any trial and error with clover getting that to take?
not so much getting to take, but just the maintenance of it. Spring planting is so tough because you have to spray. Because man, especially down there, this the grasses will take over that plot. That giant foxtail takes over that plot like nothing else. And then all of a sudden, all the beautiful stuff you have coming up is drowned out by this. It's basically a big weed field, thistles and foxtail. And the clover is still there, but it's basically been out competed by these weeds and grasses. I mean, you have to probably think about mowing and spraying at least twice in the season before fall to try to maintain that clover and keep it in good shape. Now, this year, we had some clover last year. So this year we overseeded, kind of frost seeded, and we're going to see how that works. But we need to get on the stick about making sure we spray it and keep those grasses out of there because that'll just,
Do you
you know,
spray that then? When those weeds are just coming up high, you spray it?
yeah. So if you spray it, and I'm going to forget the exact, the perfect timing. I should know this. I just read an article about it. But there's an ideal time that you want to spray. You don't want to let the grasses get too established. Obviously, you want to catch them when they're young. And so I'm forgetting the exact height. It was just in the whitetail news. Dr. Johnson wrote about it. But catch them basically when they're young, spray them, and then as they grow back again, there's often it's wise to do a subsequent spraying later in the season. So, but it's tough. It's maintenance, but that's part of it. I mean, you can't. It's not a garden or a crop that you can just kind of throw in the ground and hope it comes up and not have to worry about maintaining it at some point. So
Well, that's interesting because that's my next. As you know, I have a small property now, and uh, I have clover on my. I have clover on the. Basically, it's a logging road, and I just did that for clover grows in shade, and then
mm-hmm.
I've been using the Antler King clover. It comes in really nice, but in some of those open areas, I haven't really done too much with clover over my. I haven't planted it because I haven't any land to do it. Most of my stuff has been just brassicas, and that stuff comes in great. But my God, they eat that stuff off so quickly. I mean, I've already pushed my planting dates always now back into August, just
Yeah,
so there's something left during bow season because our bow season comes in so early in September.
yeah.
But the clover I haven't, so I'll have to maybe pick your brain a little bit more on that. Because I know we both hunted down there on the Scots, and those clover fields I mean, it's just this beautiful clover plots. Like, dang, I don't know how you guys get this, but it's pretty awesome stuff.
It is. I mean, there's looks like a just a carpet of clover like the Emerald City, just perfect. It's like, oh, I see a strand of grass over there. I've got better watch that.
Up,
You
up,
know,
up.
yeah, but yeah, those brassicas, man, they'll eat the tops off of those right away when they come up. It's crazy. Everyone wants to plant them for late season stuff, and they say, oh, after the frost, they'll really get popular, but deer are in them right away.
Now,
They'll
I
just,
wish you would have them in the background. I don't think you do. You've killed some monster bucks down there, haven't you?
I killed some okay bucks.
Oh,
Yeah.
come on, don't be shy. I've seen them.
No, I've killed some okay bucks. We have, I'm trying to think. Now our place we've only had for 4 years, and I haven't shot a buck on it yet. I mean, obviously you see what you have on camera, and you want to be kind of picky. Which completely goes against my nature of my younger self. But,
Goes against
you
my current self, but go ahead.
yeah, yeah. Oh, antlers. Okay.
Boom. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
No, I'm talking Alabama. You shot
Yeah.
a couple monsters. I mean, 5, 6, 7-year-old bucks down there.
Yeah, we shot some real nice representative bucks in Alabama. Georgia, a couple times I hunted there. Got one deer especially I think was it scored. I think in the mid 130s, but they aged it at like 7.5, I
That
think,
was the one with those huge bases, right?
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, the rack went almost straight up. It
Yep.
had no stud whatsoever, but it was a really cool deer. He was all beat up on his neck and everything. And yeah, so that was cool. I mean, and just, hunting down there is such a great experience because it's just different than we hunt up here a lot. Up here there's so much timber, obviously, and down there they have these big, beautiful green fields and shooting houses, and of course you can go down there in January when it's bitterly cold up here. It's like it was just a great experience. I loved it.
Have you taken up bow hunting again?
I have, yeah, yep. After how many years? I kind of
You still
I'm a
shooting
big
that
duck
golden
hunter.
eagle?
Yeah.
Evolution.
Craig needs that back, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did actually. We got our place, and I'm like, well, shoot. I mean, I might as well take bow hunting back up again. I mean, before it was a time thing because duck hunting and bow hunting kind of coincide. And I'm a big duck hunter, and then
Huge duck hunter. Forgot about that. Oh my God. He's more
yeah,
eaten up with duck hunting than he is turkey hunting, if you can believe that.
yeah, try to kill every last duck on the planet, I guess. But
Yeah.
but
Well, you
we
do
have
shoot divers though, so I mean you gotta
well, again, there's no quality duck management where I'm at. Yeah.
yeah. Take what you
I
can.
picked it up about I think I've done it about 3 seasons now again. So I got
For bow hunting.
yeah. Bart, our friend, had a Matthews. He wanted to sell, so I picked that up and started shooting again. And I'd forgotten how much I just enjoyed shooting the bow. I really enjoy that. It's really kind of a neat, just almost therapeutic, just to go out and shoot. Dozen arrows. Every other day or so. And so yeah, we're still trying to kind of figure our place out. I keep telling people, it's like, yeah, I wish you'd come down there. You can kind of show me how to kill some of these bucks that are running all over that we have on camera. But
You won't have
but I
me
just
down. He won't because he knows I'll kill them all. So I mean,
feel like that's right.
this episode is also brought to you by Mossberg. Mossberg has been supplying American hunters with quality firearms for over 100 years. Over the years, they've upheld their commitment to innovation by creating a handful of firearms that have shaped the way we hunt today. For more information, visit mossberg.com. Well, Susie wanted me to ask you, she will not appear on film here. She wanted me to ask you, she took a couple bites out of her bratwurst and she said she didn't think it was done and if you wanted it.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, come on. They didn't boil those before they put them on the grill. I mean,
You remember that story?
oh yeah, yeah, at the car show. Yeah. She's like,
Brian ate it and he got deathly sick. Well, there's so many stories we could tell. These guys are looking at me kind of weird. So I was going to go through this. So Mac was born in 98. That would have been about the time you were probably hunting with somebody down at White Oak, I imagine.
Yep. That'd have been yeah, I remember 98. I went down there in early April and shot a turkey with Bo Pittman, their head guide.
Bo Pittman, yep.
April. Yeah.
1999, that's when Ian was born. I think you and I were bemoaning the fact that Ray Rhodes was the coach.
Yeah,
for
yeah. The Holmgren years were over. We were in deep mourning and denial, and I think we went down to Ray Eyes in Missouri there. And
oh yes,
yeah,
yes,
99.
the best. I will tell
Yeah.
this story. I will. That was the infamous porta potty year, wasn't
it? Yeah.
So Ian, you're gonna like this. It was 1999. What year? What month, Brian? Like April?
April. Yeah, mid-April. Yep.
Oh, I'm gonna bear it all here. I'm bearing my soul on Deer Talk now. So we're sitting there. It was this old schoolhouse. There had to be like 15 of us there, and it was a mixed group. There was a bunch of old turkey hunter guys and some very young turkey hunting gals. I'm not gonna pull punches. They're quite attractive. And so we're in this camp. Everybody's off hunting, and I come in after a bout of eating cold cut sandwiches that were left on the counter for who knows how long. I have to use the porta potty. I mean, like now. So I get in there, just enjoying the morning, and all of a sudden, like 3 pickup trucks pull up and park like 3 feet from the porta potty. What the hell do you do? So I'm like stuck in there. So I'm like, well, I think I have to wait it out. So all of a sudden everybody goes in the house. Okay, here's my chance. Oh, no, the door opens. Everybody sits down on the porch. Oh my God, I think someone's in there.
Yeah, I was just checking to see if it was okay in here. There's
Sweat beating off my forehead. Yeah, you might not want to go in there for a while.
yeah. I want to drive to the other camp,
That was the
possibly
year
for.
Ewan was born. In 1989, when David was born, Brian and I were both at UW Oshkosh, I believe.
Yep, yep. I graduated in '89. Yeah,
And we were playing catch with a Nerf football, and we didn't even know each other at the time.
that's right. Yep, it was a chance meeting at by the Archie bunker houses there by the river.
So
Yeah,
that's how long we've known each other. We could go on with stories that are going to bore people because we're like talking in code. But let me ask you one last question about Deer Brian. Over all these years, over 30 years working in this industry, what are some of the, or I'd say, who are some of the people who taught you the most about deer hunting that resonates today and probably makes you a better hunter?
Oh, well, Charlie for sure. I mean, just because he was, had the biology and behavior end of it down and was a great hunter as well. And plus, he was a very patient, natural teacher. I thought, he'd always take time. It seems like so many of us there learned what we knew about photography at the time from Charlie,
Charlie
because he,
Alzheimer's, who he's talking
yeah,
about, obviously.
yeah, yeah. So Charlie would uh, teach you a lot, and he was never one to brag or I guess be over the top about it. He'd just kind of make suggestions or say like this and that, and really kind of instruct you in a real light-handed way, I guess. um oh gosh, there were so many other folks there. I mean, gosh, I remember, Greg Miller wrote for us a lot back in the day,
Yes.
and Greg had some really good stuff about, especially Northwoods hunting, which was I'd done it a little bit during gun season, and it was just like a puzzle to me how you figured out all that country and where deer would move, and how you could hunt funnels and rub lines and things like that. And Greg had a really good way of presenting that information in kind of straightforward fashion. Um, so many other writers too. I mean, you could, yeah, man, it would take an hour to list them all, but
So many, so
yeah,
many great writers, and some people who are no longer with us. You mentioned John Trout, the best blood trailer I have ever met. John was so unassuming, so like humble. But if you put him on a blood trail, I swear to God, it was like you were. I've never hunted Africa, but I can only imagine that's what those trackers are like. That's how
yeah,
John was. He's like, oh, there's a little wrinkle in the leaves. I'm like, okay. There's a little broken twig, and then there's a drop of blood. I'm like, dang. You're talking about
yeah.
callers. I won't go off on a tangent, but Shane Simpson. Oh my God, that guy's a good caller. We had him
Shane,
on the podcast, and I don't know if you guys follow him, but find his page and follow him. That dude knows how to hunt.
yeah, yep. Shane's excellent, and he has some really good instructional videos out there
Oh, does
too,
he?
on how to calling videos. Yeah, really good, very straightforward stuff. I mean, really good content, and I just love him because it's just really, really raw stuff. He's self-filming a lot of these hunts, so I don't know how he does it, but you'll sit there and you'll hear him call and see the footage, and you'll see him like reach over and tweak the camera and move it to catch the gobbler coming in, and it has to cost him turkeys over the course of a season trying to self-film like that.
He's got
But
like
he's
little
still,
GoPros all over the place.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's just pretty cool stuff. Yeah. No, Shane's great. I remember he did some stuff back for us in the day on the website doing, we had a column called Decision Time in the
Yep.
magazine. And Shane did the online version of that, where he'd filmed some stuff and did that. And it was really great content, really good. Yeah.
And then all over all the years, all our friends at Mossy Oak, all our friends at Realtree, those Southern guys, they knew how to hunt. I mean, man, we could go for. I mean, Brian was a couple ones. You were on a trip with Michael Waddell when he was just a camera guy slugging around one of those big beta cams, and I was on a hunt with Pat Reeve when he was a taxidermist. Like, I'm gonna try to film my own turkey hunt. I mean, he was all excited. And I was actually there when he did his, but so many people that we met over the years. Lee
Yeah.
Lakoski, Mr. Schmidt, I'd like to send you an article for consideration in deer and deer hunting. I mean, and you look at all these people, but the thing that I was always grateful for was this melting pot of people from, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, Texas, New York, Pennsylvania, Wyoming, South Dakota, all over the place, and we got to learn from that. which
Yeah.
was just invaluable.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, the Deep South guys, of course, have been turkey hunting for years and years. I mean, they could teach you so much because it was all new to us. I mean, we got our first turkey tags in the 90s, basically, and they'd been doing it all their lives. They
On
probably shot,
hard to hunt turkeys too.
yeah, they probably
Not the
shot
stuff
100
we
people.
had never been hunted. Boom, I'm shooting a turkey that's got like 2-inch spurs on it. Never
Yeah,
seen a person before. Or,
yep,
you know,
yep. Sit down, 3 yelps and a gunshot. Oh, by golly, that was great,
I'm
But
an expert. Yeah.
yeah, you need any tips? Let me know. Yeah, no, those
Follow
guys
me
were.
for more. Oh, we didn't have social media back then.
Yeah, Troy Ruiz, guys like that,
He was
Cuz.
on Troy, and remember that one in Texas? It was Tack Robinson and Troy,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and they were guiding me. It was we were in camp with Cuz, and we went out. Almost got bit by a rattlesnake on that trip,
Yeah.
and that's where I got this scar from shooting at a javelina. But it was Tack and Troy called that turkey in for me. And the funniest part I should say the most memorable part of that hunt for me was it was really friggin' hot. And Troy remember those big beta cams that these guys have little cameras these days that they hold in their, well, Troy is slugging around this camera. I'm like, oh, come on, it can't be that bad. And he hands it to me. I'm like, yeah, never mind. I don't want to carry this. It was like 60 pounds or something ungodly like that.
Yep, and they carried those around everywhere. I mean, yeah, Cuz did, Troy did, Mark did back in the day, carrying that stuff around. Stoltz, I remember him lugging those around, filming. It's crazy. And then they went to like more the little camcorder style, which was better. And now, like you said, you're basically like filming with your phone and a GoPro and
And
that
they
kind
did it
of
for
stuff.
deer hunting too, though.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like I don't know how they did it.
Yep,
But
Pat
anyways,
Reed. Oh gosh, yeah, he'd lug those things around forever.
well, I digress. We'll have to save those stories for another episode because I'm going to make Brian come back. He doesn't even get to answer that question.
I'll come back.
All
I'll
right.
do it.
All right,
We got
thanks,
some
man. It was really good
remember, yeah.
seeing you. I'll go back to texting you Family Guy clips and stuff like that right after we hang up.
Yeah. Sounds good. We don't have too much to gripe about with the Brewers yet, but it's a long season. So
Oh, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
yeah.
All right, Brian, thank you very much for joining us. And you're working with Whitetail News. Are there other places where people can find some more things that you're working on right now?
Yep. NWTF Turkey Call Magazine. I'm the On the Hunt field editor. Delta Waterfowl. I do a column with them. Realtree.com, do waterfowl content with them, and also write other turkey stuff for Game and Fish, Benelli, a lot of other folks. So
very cool. Very cool. Check them out. Brian Lovett, Instagram, Facebook, and wherever else. Like I said, the things he mentioned, the big ones, NWTF, Whitetail Institute. Well, he just mentioned them all, Delta, etc. Brian, my friend, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Dan. Always a pleasure.
For Brian Lovett, I am Dan Schmidt. Please just like and subscribe. That's all we ask you to do wherever you're listening to this podcast or watching this podcast. And until next Thursday, we will catch you again for another episode of Deer Talk Now. Deer Talk Now is brought to you by 10-Point Crossbow Technologies. Whether I'm in a tree stand, ground blind, or spot and stalk hunting, I know the Nitro 505 is up to any challenge. Check one out at a dealer near you or log on to 10pointcrossbows.com for more information.